in the last 12 months, how often have we heard people talk about economic recovery, diversity, equity, inclusion, how to make your company grow and not just survive, but thrive, and how to get people back to work? How are we going to do that? You know, these are all very current, prevalent, and very heavily discussed topics. So today we're going to talk about how apprenticeship is a very valuable strategy to be able to engage in each of these efforts. To get us started, I want to explain a little bit about what apprenticeships are. And actually, to get us started, I probably should introduce myself. My name is Melisa Stark, and I'm the Commissioner of Apprenticeship Programs for the state of Utah. I'm excited to hold this position. It's the first for the state that we have this position. It was legislatively implemented in 2019, and I was appointed as the first Commissioner of Apprenticeship. So I'm really excited to be able to help develop apprenticeship programs and promote apprenticeships as a valuable workforce development strategy. When we talk about apprenticeships, first of all, we kind of need to understand what they are. Apprenticeship really is a training system that produces highly skilled workers that meets the demand of employers that are competing in a global economy. But most importantly, it integrates classroom training with on-the-job learning. And what makes a high-quality apprenticeship program is really 5 essential criteria. It's paid, structured, on-the-job learning under the supervision of a skilled employee. There's related classroom-based instruction. When I say classroom, it just really means related instruction, because we know in today's world we do a lot of things virtually or in the employer's classroom and not necessarily at an institution. There's ongoing assessments to understand the individual skills and the competencies that they've gained through their classroom instruction and on-the-job learning. And then there's also wage increases, which is really an award that's commensurate with demonstrating their competencies and showing that they've increased their skills and abilities to make them more valuable for your company. And then ultimately, it also culminates in a portable, industry-recognized credential, certificate, degree, credit towards a degree, and a certification by the Department of Labor when it's registered, showing that you have mastered these skills and can be a valuable employee to anyone in the country in the occupation that you gained those skills in. Oftentimes, apprenticeships are either misconstrued or confused or interchangeably used with the term internship. So I want to talk about a couple of key differences between apprenticeships and internships. Internships are usually short-term in duration. They're usually about 3 to 6 months. They may be paid or unpaid, and they may result in full-time employment, or they may not. There's really not an expectation of that, but kind of a hope that it will. Where apprenticeships are employment. The apprentice and the employer expect that when the program is completed, that those individuals are going to be now journeymen and still working for your company. The beauty of an apprenticeship is that the apprentice gains valuable to apply those skills immediately to the job, because they're learning them for the specific occupation that they're in. I mean, we would have loved to have been able to apply the things that we were learning or understand what we were learning and understand how it applied to the real world. And that's what an apprenticeship does. It gives them the opportunity to do that. Apprentices also have a 94% retention rate with the company upon completion of the program. I think that's something that all employers would love to see, a 94% retention rate with their staff, right? And that's not to say that internships are not valuable, because they are very valuable. They can be used to see if the company is a right fit for you or if you're a right fit for the company. They can be used early on as a career exploration tool to see if it's something that you really want to invest your time and effort and maybe even money into learning and opportunity. And really, an intern hopes to make a good impression and hopes that it's going to result in long-term employment. But I often like to refer to internships as a try before you buy model, and an apprenticeship as a train to retain. You're training your workforce in the way that you need them for your specific company, and then you want to keep them there. So what better way to do that than to help be able to train the workforce system that we want to. So now for a few key data points to keep in mind during our discussion today. In Utah, the current unemployment rate is 3.1%, where nationally it is 6.3%. So we're number 2 in the nation in terms of unemployment, behind Idaho, but we're number 1 in many other aspects in our living conditions here in Utah, in the growth that we're experiencing, in the way that we're coming out of the pandemic and able to rebound as quickly as we have. Last week there were approximately 39,000 unemployment insurance claims, but they have now been decreasing for 5 weeks in a row. So people are getting back to work. So that's a good thing. The economic shutdown, let me start with this. History has shown that for marginalized or disadvantaged communities, they are often the first and the last ones back in. So when in typical recessions, that's usually the way that it happens. However, the COVID-19 economic shutdown compounded this issue because the industries that were most affected were those in hospitality, retail, personal services, tourism, where a lot of these populations usually work, and many of them are in lower skill jobs. However, there are a lot of people that want to take this opportunity to learn a new skill and change industries. They don't want to have this experience that they just had. There's also a lot of people that are already back to work or stayed working this whole time and would like an opportunity to change what they are doing, but they don't quite know how to get there, or they don't have the luxury of quitting their job to learn a skill to then go get a new job. So this is another way where apprenticeship can help, because you're employed while you're learning those skills. So we want to show employers how this strategy can be very valuable for their company. A recent study that was conducted by the Strata Education Network indicated that 7 in 10 people, or 69%, agreed that employers should be hiring for skills or helping learn skills rather than a degree. However, only 48% of those same individuals indicated that the companies that they work for actually do that. 2 in 5 individuals agree that they learn best when their employer is involved. That's a pretty high percentage rate. And we just talked about, an apprenticeship being employment and having mentoring and learning on the job. So this shows that can be a pretty key way for people to be successful as an employee for you through an apprenticeship program. So now I want to talk to our panelists that are here, and I want to thank them for joining us today, because they're going to be able to share with us what approaches they've taken, why they're involved in apprenticeships, how valuable they have been for them, and what they do to include this strategy for their economic growth and sustainability. But one thing that I want you to note is that each of these programs are very different. Apprenticeship is not a one-size-fits-all. It's not the same type of program for every individual. It's not the same type of program for every company. There are many different things or strategies or ways that it can be implemented to meet your needs as a business. So Joey, I want to start with you. If you could please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your program, maybe what you offer, how it's set up and managed, and what efforts your organization has made to diversify your candidate pool.
You bet. Thanks, Commissioner. Certainly appreciate it. So Joey Gilbert, I'm Vice President of the Associated General Contractors. Just a little bit of background of the AGC. We are a not-for-profit trade organization representing the commercial construction industry. We are comprised of approximately 600 member companies that do do work across the entire state. Our membership, if you were to break it down logistically, we do about our members would do about 80% of what I would say the vertical construction for the state of Utah. Many of the hospitals, prison projects, downtown projects that you see being built are probably being built by an AGC member. In addition to that, about 96% of all the highways and roads municipal city projects are done by an AGC member. So we are comprised of general contractors, subcontractors, as well as what we call a service supplier. And that would be anybody that provides kind of a service or a product, whether it be a CPA law firm or any of those types of groups would be involved as well. But this year we're celebrating our 99th year in business here in Utah, and our headquarters is here out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and then we have a satellite or district office in St. George, Utah. We are a full apprenticeship program for the construction trades. We have approximately about 6 programs that we oversee through our apprenticeship program, and we work in direct relationship with the with the Department of Labor through the Office of Apprenticeship. That is for those that are not familiar with DOL and the Office of Apprenticeship, that's a federal-run program, and we are a federal DOL-approved state. And so many of our contractors, more specifically on the highway construction industry, if there is federal funding associated with that project or that highway or road, the federal government will mandate required apprenticeship hours for that project in order to receive that federal funds. And so many of our highway industry folks are, of course, involved with our apprenticeship programs as well as our building sectors as well. But as far as an organization, we have approximately, I'd say, 20 participating companies. We graduate somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50 to 60 apprentices each and every year, and we typically have in any given year around 200 to 250 apprentices seeking journeyman status within the construction industry. Of the programs we run, we have truckers, we have a truck driver program, a laborers program, a carpentry program, heavy equipment operator program, form building program, and I'm sure I'm missing another one in there. But anyways, those are the programs that we run through the Department of Labor. We're kind of a unique, I won't say unique, but our apprenticeship programs are in direct relationship with our member companies that are participating. So in order to be an eligible apprentice in our apprenticeship programs, you would have to have a sponsoring employer. And our sponsoring employers provide the on-the-job training, and then we as an organization provide and work in partnership with the MATC, the in the classroom training. And we run that at various times during the year, typically not in the middle of construction season, as you can imagine. But we run those in the classroom seating opportunities throughout the year, twice a year. With the programs, they're well funded by the members that participate and those that are involved with the apprenticeship programs, as well as some additional state funding that typically will come through, probably more specifically on the highway side of it. But any of our apprentices that go through the program typically will have signing bonuses. They have graduating bonuses. In most cases, all of that education is 100% paid for and provided for as long as they're seeing it through to completion. They do not pay a single dime for that education. In addition to that, they'll have childcare provided in some cases, as well as if they're traveling great distances to be here for the in-the-seat training, we provide hotel stays for them, per diems for their cost of meals and food and those types of things as well. But I believe we have a vigorous program. It continues to grow. We're right in the middle of a process of building a new facility. We've been leasing some space here in Salt Lake off of California Avenue. We'll be completing our new apprenticeship training facility that joins our campus here in Salt Lake, but we're adding 16,000 square foot fully functional training facility with welding booths. We also do what I would say safety type events as part of that training. We have fall protection towers, confined space vaults, again, the welding booths. We do all the form building there. And of course, we're going to be doing some safety rigging and Fall protection is part of that training facility as well. But anyways, excited about that new facility, but that's all in large part for many of the apprenticeship programs that we run and operate. I know that we have also on our call, we have a full-time apprenticeship training director that oversees all of our educational events and programs. His name is Taylor Smith. If anybody on this call has a question, they could feel free to reach out to him. But I know Taylor's with us, and if I've missed anything, Melisa or Taylor, I'm sure Taylor would be able to fill in as well. So, Melisa, is that what you're asking? And is there anything else I need to touch on?
Yes, thank you. I think if we have questions, we'll come back to some of this. I think it's really valuable to see the different types of programs that we have. And so yours is what we would refer to as a group program, or that you serve as an intermediary where the employers who are member companies of the AGC can use your apprenticeship program rather than having to set up one on their own. So that's one model of doing it. Now I want to turn some time over to Stacy Palacios. She is with Utah Transit Authority, and they have a different type of program where they have their own program. So Stacy, if you would tell us a little bit about your program and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Thank you. My name is Stacy Palacios. I am the manager of training and development for Utah Transit Authority. We actually run our own program in-house and provide all of our own related instruction training. We actually have two current active apprenticeship programs. We definitely don't have the numbers Joey does, but it works for us. We started our apprenticeship program in the late 1990s, and it was basically because we found that our technology was changing in such a way that we really just didn't have a way to keep our staff up to date with the latest technologies. And what we found is it still continues to change. And so our apprenticeship program has really served us well in retaining employees, making sure they have the skills necessary to do the work. And I think Melisa, you touched on this, the retention rate, right? I think you said 94%. I think ours is even higher than that. We usually on typically average, our maintenance employees will stay with UTA for around 38 years is the average of the lifespan of an employee here. And so what we found is not only by providing training to our employees, but it helps them feel valued members of our company. And it really has created just this positive morale and culture where they know that UTA is investing in them, and so they're invested in our success also. And so there's the other side of apprenticeship that I think often gets overlooked in regards to that. So we have two current active apprenticeship programs. One is a bus transit repairer program, which is for our bus vehicle mechanics. And then we also do a body shop apprenticeship program. We've actually found that it is such a valuable resource for us. We're currently in the process of adding 3 new apprenticeship programs for other maintenance type vehicles. So it's been one that we found the pipeline of being able to grow our own has just made it so successful for us that we want to continue to evolve it in a way that really helps us. Our programs, we average about anywhere from 30 to 35 apprentices a year. Our graduation rates aren't quite that number. I think we usually are between 10 and 15 a year. Our program is kind of a hybrid program. We look at it as a competency-based / time-based program. We have built everything around this 3-year mark, but we also look at it in a way of how competent is a mechanic or a technician. And so there is this possibility of them taking less time to go through their apprenticeship program, or it may take them longer than the 3 years. And so we base everything on a list of competencies that they have to verify before they can graduate. And so we kind of have this hybrid model that also I think has been really beneficial for us. Did I miss anything, Melisa?
No, I think that's a great introduction. I'm so excited to hear that you're now adding 3 more programs as well. That's really exciting. Brittany, I'm glad you're here today. And the reason I asked you here is because you're fairly new to the space. It's been maybe a year or two, but in comparison to some of the other programs that we've developed, I just want people to see kind of the differences, and then also maybe why you established your program or what assistance you may have gotten in getting it set up. So that we can see that employers don't have to go it alone when they're trying to do something like this.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about our apprenticeship program is we're a nonprofit. We act as an intermediary between apprentices or potential apprentices and our membership base, which consists of public and private water and wastewater systems in cities and municipalities. Who run the water systems for their area, their consumers. And the biggest thing we noticed was that there is a big gap in our industry of workers where, a good portion of those are going to start retiring in the next 5 to 8 years. And those jobs aren't being replenished by new, younger workforce. And so we are a sister state apprenticeship program in a group of a national group. And so our parent association started noticing these same similarities in other states. And specifically for Utah, our industry need for these kind of employees keeps growing because the state just keeps expanding and growing. And so we wanted to figure out a way to help kind of combat that and stop from having all those consequences of a dropout workforce. So we started working with our sister state associations that had already previously set up apprenticeship programs, and we really worked hard with the Department of Labor and also Department of Workforce Services. I've gotten to know Alexia on a very good basis because she's been so very helpful for us. But we do a water program and a wastewater program, and they are fairly new. We're still working on them. We're actually in the process of rewriting all of our standards right now. Kind of a trial by error, which has been a good learning experience. But we hope to get it to the point where we can help our rural and our urban systems at the same rate and kind of combat those issues with, aging workforce.
Thank you, Brittany. And I think it's important to point out you're with the Rural Water Association of Utah, but really you show the public side of apprenticeships. So it's not just for private businesses, but our public entities can use them as well. So we really appreciate that. I want to hear about from any of you 3 about the strategies you may have used to engage non-traditional populations, disadvantaged youth, veterans, any efforts or strategies that you've used to include that, or has that been a result that's kind of automatically happened with your program? What does that look like for you guys?
Melisa, maybe I can start just a little bit. So, in construction, we're a little fortunate that there are some other national groups and organizations that have specific, I would say, areas of focus. One being Women in Construction, the National Association of Women in Construction. They typically will host an annual, 1 or 2 annual events each year that we make sure that we're a part of and participate in and support in any way that we can. You also have Senator Karen Main has a similar initiative that she's called Women in the Trades, and she has an annual event that she does at the Multicultural Center located here in West Valley that we typically are a part of and participate. So we do outreach efforts through many of those national groups and kind of dovetail into some of the things that they're doing. But in addition to that, we work closely with our partners at DWS. They're a terrific resource as they're doing job and career fairs and as they're reaching out to some of the what I'd say various groups of folks that they serve, whether it be the disadvantaged, voc rehab, youth. I mean, they have a number of committees and groups that they work with. We make sure that we're participating in any way we can with them as well as a great partner at the DWS. But the last component or piece that I'll share there too is like any of the industries that are involved with this phone call, construction is one of those industries that we believe is a high-paying industry. But in addition to that is an industry that is having a difficult time finding the workforce in order to continue to feed that pipeline as we build the future. And so construction in the last, I would say 5 years, as maybe some industries have struggled or looking for work, we have not slowed one bit. Even in the year we had last year, all of our member companies were having record years of construction. And so we continue to work with educators, school guidance counselors at all of the various areas of the state, trying to tap into the resources of the youth that are out there looking for careers in construction, whether it be apprenticeship, whether they just want to get into the craft working side of it, or pursue a college degree in construction management. So those are some of the areas of focus that we spend our time and effort and energy on as far as trying to attract all of those different various groups. The last one I will mention is we've had some success, not from a necessarily apprenticeship perspective, but from a workforce development perspective that leads into some of the apprenticeship is through the Utah Correctional Industries folks. Working with some of those reformed individuals that are coming through our prison and jail systems and trying to find them viable careers in our case in the construction industry to help them be successful in life. And so that's some of the efforts and energy we've been spending.
Great. Stacy or Brittany, do you have anything you'd like to add? Stacy?
I'll just kind of dovetail on to what Joey had said. It's, a lot of it is just a lot of outreach. We participate with, we do a lot of, high school events, going out in recruitment, really kind of showcasing an alternative to a lot of what some people think they have to go to a 4-year university, get this fancy degree. We like to provide them another avenue. And it is a good paying wage job that people can support their families on. And so I think that's one of the ways that we went to it. Another avenue is obviously we do a lot of recruiting, and we have a lot of competition. I mean, UTA compared to a Komatsu or we're a government entity, so we can't put as much money into some aspects. So we have to look at it in a different way. One of the ways that we found really well is to partner with some of our local ATCs in their schooling, and we provide internship opportunities. And additionally, we've found we've kind of created this own internal pipeline from some of our lower position jobs where they can come in if they're, maybe one of our coach cleaners that are working graveyards and cleaning our buses at night. We provide them actually a full scholarship opportunity to go study diesel, which will help them get into the shop environment. So a lot of it is just honestly just getting out and recruiting and talking to people and letting them know these are options for them.
Thank you. Brittany, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, when COVID hit, we were in the process of creating a youth apprenticeship program, and we were doing test high schools in Utah County, and we're starting to, because the schools had been canceled and personal interaction had been limited, we weren't able to get that going for this semester, but they're hoping to get it all ready to go. We've had an extreme amount of interest within the high schools. And if they work in this youth apprenticeship program, it kind of onboards them into the actual apprenticeship program for when they graduate, which will count as credit served. And then they can finish and get their certificate from the Department of Labor, all that more quickly. And then it gives them access to a higher paying job than, would be normal for a post high school graduate. So we're really interested in exploring that avenue further.
That is a great segue, Brittany, into our next topic, which is pre-apprenticeships and youth apprenticeships, or career pathways that can also lead to apprenticeships. So Julia, I'd like to turn some time over to you. If you can introduce yourself and tell us about the Youth Build program.
I would love to. So my name is Julia Branch. I'm with the Youth Build program at the Ogden-Weber Tech College. And for those of you who don't know what the Youth Build program is, it's a DOL funded program that the Tech College has had now for 10 years. We're coming up on 10 years, so that's exciting for us. We're 4 students who've been disattached from their high school dropouts. So all of our students are at-risk youth. They're 16 to 24, and they fit a variety of categories which qualify them for this program. So we work in the construction department at the Ogden-Weber Tech College, side by side with the other construction program. So our goal is to reconnect youth with school and with training and get their high school diploma and their construction certificates, and then move them on to whatever is next for them. So we offer construction, like I said a couple of times, and we also offer CNA. So we have 2 pathways that our students go through. We are a structured pre-apprenticeship program. We are recognized by Department of Labor as an apprenticeship program, pre-apprenticeship, let me be clear. So we prepare students to enter the apprenticeship programs. So our training program is a 50-40-10 model. So our students spend half of their time doing their high school diploma or GED, 40% of their time getting those industry recognized credentials, and then 10% of their time we work on leadership and life skills with our students to prepare them for work. Those are all of the soft skills for employment that they need to keep their lives in order, to be good employees, and to be able to move on to something that's a little bit more for them. So we have supportive services in place to keep all of our students in line and going in the right direction. We have a job developer, we have staff mentors, we have case managers, and they provide really wraparound services for our students to get them where they're going. We have hands-on learning experiences. So our students do their construction in 2 parts. They do their academic work, all based on the NCCER curriculum. We do 6 NCCER credentials while they're with us. So they'll do the NCCER core carpentry 1, cabinet making, crew leader, your role in the green environment, and tools for success. So if they successfully complete our program, they are well-rounded, and they've done the academic component of the first year of apprenticeship. So we're pretty excited about that. We structure for that so that we can place them in an apprenticeship pathway. Part of that is that they do hands-on learning activities and experiences with us. We work on, part of our goal and mission is to do housing for low-income people. We've done stuff with Homeless Veterans Fellowship. We did that for a few years where we were remodeling those units that the veterans lived in. We worked with YCC, which is the domestic violence shelter in town, and have remodeled their facilities. Unfortunately, they ran out of work for us to do, so we moved on. We've worked with Habitat for Humanity. We've built a home with Habitat for Humanity, and we're looking forward to working the next year with Weber Housing Authorities. So our students build or remodel all of this housing depending on what the project is, from ripping it out to ground up construction. We are also an AmeriCorps program, so our students do 450 hours of community service while they're in the program with us. Over the last 70 years, we've done over 60,000 hours of community service. So we really work on the basis of people support what they help create. So we get our students involved in their community so that they're helping to create the community, so that they support the community. So it's a whole round model with them. Placements and pathways, our purpose is to place students in what's next for them. That can be direct employment, it can be apprenticeship, or it can be further education. We love apprenticeship with our students. First of all, because we're a pre-apprenticeship model, and secondly, because it's such a great, it's just such a great fit for them and a great opportunity for them. So that's Youth Build.
I really appreciated your point about how the value they bring to the community. So here, an apprentice provides value for them as an individual. It provides value to the company. It provides value to the community, and ultimately the state as a whole, right? Because we have better trained individuals, but they also gain those leadership skills to be successful. I think another key point that you brought out is with this being a pre-apprenticeship, they are actually able to gain credit, if you will, for prior learning.
Yes. Yep.
And it directly aligns into the full apprenticeship program. So that is great. That's amazing. I think that's a key point that I like to share it with the group so that they can see that as an added value. I'm not sure if Jeremy Farner was able to join us today. If you're here, great, speak up, Jeremy. If not, I know both Joey Gilbert and Taylor Smith have been involved with the architecture, engineering, and construction pathway. This pathway is for high school students, and this opportunity provides them coursework while they're still in high school, but also provides some internships and some externships so that they can gain some experience within these companies. But then they also encourage multiple ways to success, right? You can continue on and complete a degree in a construction area program, or you can go on and complete an apprenticeship. And I know they've been trying to work with our high schools more and more and align that even more. Joey or Taylor, is there anything else you'd like to add about that?
Maybe just what I'll just add to that. That was a very good summary, by the way, Melisa. But really just to add to that, we work directly in relationship and partnership with the AAC pathway. They meet on a regular basis here in our building. It's an initiative that was done by many folks within the construction industry. But as Melisa indicated, it's an opportunity for a high school student to earn credits or college credits, I should say, in a high school setting, do some of that pre-apprenticeship training and education, and then carry that through, whether it be into an apprenticeship program, construction management degree, or right into the work field as they're doing that. It's done through the Governor's Office of Economic Development is kind of the governing body over that. And the goal and the objective for that group and task force is to take that model or that program that is really in the Davis County area right now, take that statewide. And there's some interest currently down in southern Utah. I know Summit County is looking at that model as well. And so really being able to take that into all the high school programs throughout the state is our goal and mission there. So super excited about the AAC pathway.
Great, thank you, Joey. So now I want to shift just a little bit and turn some time over to Alexia Murphy. She's our state program specialist for apprenticeships, specifically within the Department of Workforce Services, and kind of develops policy, but also manages an apprenticeship grant. And it also acts as the liaison between the Department of Labor and helps to assist employers when they're developing programs. So Alexia, can you share resources that you have available to help support this?
Yeah, so right now is actually kind of a great time to be involved in apprenticeship because there are lots of grants going on throughout the state. So I'll talk first about the grant I manage because I can. But really the purpose of that grant is to expand and diversify apprentices. Because it is a grant, the eligibility requirements were able to be a little bit less stringent than other programs we work with. And so the apprentice actually has to apply and be eligible, but they just need to be able to work in the United States and be either underemployed or and wanting to kind of upskill They can be unemployed and needing to reskill to enter the workforce, or they could be what we call an incumbent worker. So somebody who's working for an employer and looking to move up with them. The funding currently is limited to $2,000 per apprentice, and that can be used towards either their classroom training costs or what we call on-the-job training, which is a reimbursement that goes to the employer to help offset some of the costs that are associated with training somebody on the job. And then they can't already be an apprentice at application. So this is really geared towards new apprentices. So that's the grant that Workforce Services has. But as I mentioned, we have a lot going on in our state. Weber State currently has a grant to support apprenticeships in IT or IT-related fields. Weber State did receive the grant, but the project actually spans the state. So individuals can work with schools that are not just Weber State. They also partnered with a group called Apprenti as part of this. So Apprenti is a group program as well, maybe a little bit similar to like Rural Water or AGC, where they're going to act as a sponsor and they're going to manage all those details with the Department of Labor. And their grant also includes some on-the-job training funds for small employers that have less than 50 employees. Southern Utah University has a grant as well. This is for cybersecurity and clean energy and advanced manufacturing. So that's been fun to watch that kind of start moving along. It's a multi-state grant, and they are definitely open to additional employers that might want to partner in that effort. We have two right now. We currently have two. They're called HRSA grants, so they're through Human Services. Utah State has one, and the University of Utah has one. And that grant is really for paraprofessionals that are in behavioral health, working specifically with substance and behavioral health issues. And finally, the legislature approved $2 million in ongoing funding for apprenticeship and work-based learning. This funding is going to be managed through GOED, our governor's office. Sorry, I did an acronym. Governor's Office of Economic Development, and it will be available starting in July. And more information will be shared as that kind of as that process rolls out. If anybody is interested in connecting to these grants, feel free to reach out directly to me, and I can get you in touch with those individuals. I will put my my email address in the chat. The other thing I wanted to mention, as part of my role with Workforce Services, I do help companies and associations kind of navigate that the registration process with the Department of Labor and bring the partners to the table. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with that or not sure where to start, you're also welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help with that process.
Thank you, Alexia. I think everyone here would share that they've been very grateful for the assistance that you have provided them. You've been great at being able to help people see through their job descriptions what occupation that might align with in what we call the RAPIDS code or the Department of Labor code, and really help identify and help them see how they can identify what will be learned on the job versus what will be learned in the classroom, and really helping them to prepare for when they do have that conversation with the Department of Labor. I like to say, you know, when you work with Lexi, we're able to hand things over to Pat on a silver platter. And that helps her too, because she's one person that covers the entire state. And so we really try to be what we call Team Utah and really help each other out in any way that we can. One of the key points I'd like to bring out too is, if you notice, each of our panelists represent different industries. We have someone in construction. We have a few that lead into construction, but even with Julia and her Youth Build grant and project also has a healthcare component to it, which is exciting. And then we have our diesel technicians, best maintenance mechanics and auto body. So we do that to show that, again, apprenticeships are best when they are aligned with the industry demand. So you as the employer drive what your needs are and what that program needs to look like. We don't come in and tell you, oh, this is what you do. Okay, this is how you need to do it. That's really what you need to tell us, what we want you to tell us, because we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. And so that's something that I think we pride ourselves in. I think for a time, there were some that were really interested in a program that was called IRAP, or Industry Recognized Apprenticeship Programs. That is something that has been put on hold by the Department of Labor and by the President. They're trying to decide what they're going to do moving forward. But one of the key points that I like to bring out is, if any apprenticeship program is not meeting the needs of industry, then we're doing the wrong thing. Even when you're registering your program, we're meeting your need because we're developing it specifically for you. So in closing, there's a couple things I want you to think about. You know, because equal employment opportunity is the cornerstone of registered apprenticeships, we really encourage you to consider the role of diversity and inclusion within your organization or your business. Research has demonstrated how apprenticeship programs really embody these values and practices, and how they are creating more inclusive workplaces. When workers, including women, minorities, individuals with disabilities, veterans, have the opportunity to become apprentices, we really tap into our state's full potential, and we open new career paths for all citizens within the state of Utah. I think it's really important to understand that diversifying your candidate pool or diversifying your organization does not mean lowering the bar. It just means that we're removing barriers to keep the perfect candidate from being able to compete. We want to help them be able to compete in a global market or a global economy, just like you as your organizations. We want to help you be competitive. So we encourage you to take a holistic, multifaceted approach to diversity and inclusion, and diversifying even the pipeline that you have. So implement intentional strategies. Look at recruitment efforts, including identifying a list of organizations that you can tap into as resources or referrals to diversify your candidate pool. Develop your own program or partner with an intermediary to manage the program for you, whatever is going to work best for you. Look at how you can forge partnerships and what those partnerships will do for you and your organization and your workers. You can work with the Department of Workforce Services to connect to a diverse talent pool. You can connect apprentices to additional supports to help them be successful in their program. You can start early by working with your public high schools and reaching and developing the future generation of talent. And then finally, build an ecosystem within your organization that promotes lifelong learning. Start by orienting your leaders toward a shared vision, and use apprenticeships as that infrastructure or that model to obtain repeatable results. That's really what that does. You already hire, you already onboard, you already train, you already promote, but you might do it differently for each different candidate. If you outline that strategy and formalize it into an apprenticeship process, you do that for repeatable results. And then truly, for additional information, or if you want help developing your program, you just have more questions, you want to talk it through a little bit more, Alexia is going to put our contact information in the chat. We're here to help you. I know there's been a few questions that have come in that we've answered already, some that we may need to answer in a little more detail, so we can reach out to you. But is there anything, Alexia or Allison, that we should be answering now?
I think Mark Hadley had a question earlier where he asked Stacy and Joey, how can tech colleges fit into these existing apprenticeships within your companies and organizations without being involved in the DOL's apprenticeships? I don't know if we want to address that real quick.
Maybe I can just answer from AGC's perspective. We have a formalized agreement with the MATC as far as an association for the training component piece of it. And that's, again, a relationship that we've had for a while. But as far as from a training perspective and many of the other tech programs, the DOL side of it is really the standards of apprenticeship that are approved by each of the DOL's approved apprenticeship program. So we have to, in our case, under our standards, have that partnership with a tech program. I'm not saying that has to be the case with every single apprenticeship, but that is the case with ours. And so I don't know if that answers Mark's question or not, at least from, and again, that's just AGC's apprenticeship program.
And we can talk more offline too, Mark, about how we would engage working with Davis Tech even further. We're happy to do that. We've got about 4 minutes left. Any advice you would give Joey, Stacy, Julia, Brittany on, what to think about when you're developing a program, or what might be helpful, or what pitfall to avoid?
I'll go ahead and go. I think the one thing that I would have to say in regards to apprenticeship, as I'm currently in the process of, developing 3 more, it takes time. And so don't it's going to, this instantaneous, magical wand is going to appear. It takes time, and it takes a lot of pre-work to work it out. Is it that you're going to train in-house, or are you going to contract out? How does that function? How are you going to recruit? What are your qualifications? So there's so many little nuances to it. I would just say, go into it knowing that there's a lot of pre-work, but once you get into it, there's so many benefits that the organization will see. And I'm 100% believe in apprenticeship. I've spent over 17 years working in apprenticeship at UTA. So, it's worth the time and investment.
That's a really good advice and a good key point. And it's okay that it takes a little bit of time. And I think another thing that's important for individuals to know, or companies to know, is you don't have to only use apprenticeships now. You still have this is just another recruiting tool, right? There's other things that you do already. We just encourage you to add this to it. I think another key point is you can do one at a time. If you have an opening for 1 or you have an opening for 5, either way, it's okay. Stacy, who has 35, that's what their need is. We don't expect all companies to start out and go, oh my gosh, if I'm going to do this, I need to have at least 35 openings. No, that's not necessarily the case. Again, it's designed specifically for you. So I appreciate you bringing that out. Joey?
Maybe just, again, it's already been mentioned once or maybe a couple of times, but I would say the advantage that we have as an association is where we represent a large number of employers. We have 2, what I would say, apprenticeship steering committees, and they're comprised of those participants that are utilizing those programs to have the input as to the education that they are needing as employers. And so we are able to then cater that education as far as the school training to meet their needs. I'd say if you're looking at a apprenticeship program or interested in an apprenticeship program, I would reach out to see if there's an existing program out there with a provider that is able to help you, assist you in that path. Again, we simply provide the platform. The employer provides the on-the-job training. And again, you got that, at least in the advantage of our organization, you got the experience of 50 plus years of running apprenticeship programs. And again, the expense that you may incur as an individual employer, you may be able to save those costs by having folks that are already engaged in that arena to help and assist you. And I know that's been mentioned, but explore those opportunities and options. And maybe just an example of that, we've already been approached by a couple of other, what I'd say, companies that we currently don't do apprenticeship programs for. One example I'll use is masonry, doing brick and masonry construction. We currently don't have that program, but we have a few members and other folks outside of our membership that are saying, hey, this ought to be a program we ought to take a look at. And we're now beginning that process to see how we can implement that program, get the instructors, and then get the approved standards to have that program available for industry.
Great, thank you. I really, truly appreciate all of our panelists. Thank you for being with us today and sharing your experiences with us. We hope to connect with you all in the future in developing your programs or connecting you to others who have programs or even the candidates for those that are already having programs. And to steal one of Joey's sayings, I want to start to stay on budget and on time. So it's 2:30 and we allotted an hour for this webinar. Please note our contact information is in the chat, and feel free to reach out to us anytime. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.